Starting from the beginning, December 7th, 1941. The Americans who'd been neutral for 2 years didn't know what was coming to hit them. From further on, this video will be covering a dark part of history, focusing on prejudice and racism towards the Asian community. The Americans found themselves lunging into war after the Pearl Harbor surprise attack by Imperial Japan's Navy. Pearl Harbor was an aerial attack that resulted in significant damage to the American Pacific Fleet. The Americans felt slighted by this attack, which heavily influenced Canada's actions. Over 22,000 Japanese Canadians were later uprooted from their families, possessions were stolen, and forcibly relocated to camps, which were overcrowded, under surveillance at all times, and subjected to harsh living standards. They tried to make the most of it and build community through the hard times, but nothing beats being home, comfortable, happy, but most of all, being free. After internment was over, Japanese Canadians and Americans were still facing adversity, discrimination, and still perceived as enemy aliens. Yet, after the war, they continued to strive for greatness, rebuild the lives they once lost, and seek help for the injustices towards their community. For a long time, it still wasn't perfect, but it was better than being in internment, confined against their own will. Prime Minister Brian Mulroney later issued an apology, stating the anti-Asian hate that had happened almost 50 years prior. The apology was a significant moment in history. Having someone recognize the wrongdoings of the government in such a grand way was a win for the Japanese Canadians.
At this time, the specific terms of the government's historic agreement with the National Association of Japanese Canadians. I will meet later this morning with the President of the National Association of Japanese Canadians and some of his colleagues who are with him today to formalize this special agreement. Mr. Speaker, most of us in our own lives have had occasion to regret certain things that we have done. Error is an ingredient of humanity. So too is apology and forgiveness. We all have learned from personal experience that as inadequate as apologies are, they are the only way that we can cleanse the past so that we may, as best we can in good conscience, face the future. And so, Mr. Speaker, I know that I speak for members on all sides of the House today in offering to Japanese Canadians the formal and sincere apology of this Parliament for those past injustices against them and against their families and against their heritage, and our solemn commitment and undertaking to Canadians of every origin that such violations will never again in this country be countenanced or repeated.
Yeah.
I was more traumatized and really made very conscious of the fact that I was different, that I was Japanese. I came home from school and the FBI were in our house, searching our house. At the end of the search, they said that my father had to go with them. And so I remember him turning around and saying that he wasn't sure when he was going to be back. The first thing that I can remember is walking, it seemed like in dust. It was just like something that was so foreign to us. And it wasn't like a little bit of dust, but it was like inches of dust. And then we were assigned our barrack.
The Japanese American internment is an important historical moment for us to remember because it reminds us that in times of crisis, we have a tendency to allow racism to take hold of society and allow us to make decisions that in many times are in violation of our civil liberties or civil rights. Unfortunately, over the course of 2020, we saw a rise of anti-Asian rhetoric. What you can see this anti-Asian rhetoric really aligning with is this long-standing trope of Asian Americans being foreigners, being perpetual outsiders. It's a way of really dehumanizing Asian Americans as really being, kind of followers, and or almost kind of mechanical.
We felt that it was wrong for them to imprison us like that, and so we wanted to demonstrate that they were wrong, that we were loyal citizens